All right. So how do you turn that prospect fear, anybody you're talking to, into focus? So fear into focus, anxiety into acceptance, their frustration into fun, being closed-minded into being closed. We're going to get into the psychology, the EQ, to understand how to flip it to where the fear's not holding them back. You can turn that fear into focus. Let's do it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
All right, good to have you back. Kurt Mortensen, Maximize Your Influence is a podcast 529. My voice has been going in and out, so I might be squeaking a little bit, but I'm glad you're here. A lot of podcasts you can listen to. Appreciate your love, your feedback. You can always reach out to me at Kurt, K-U-R-T, at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. Hopefully you're achieving your goals, becoming a better influencer, understanding your EQ, your emotional intelligence, which we all know is more important than IQ. Hopefully you got that EQ to be successful in life, to be happy, to grow your business, to be an influencer. EQ is always more important than IQ. I mean, you need to have your core competence, but you don't have to have a huge IQ to have core competence. Let's kick it off with a persuasion ninja. So this was on we'll just say it was a tropical island, beautiful place, doesn't get that cold, always pretty warm, and the airport did not invest in air conditioning. And there are a lot of times during the summer where these tropical islands can get pretty hot. Most of the time they don't need air conditioning, but this particular day it was pretty warm, catching a flight home, and there was this one restaurant at the airport right when you walk through security that had air conditioning. One of the only places you could cool down, get a little AC on a hot day waiting for your flight. I thought that was awesome. What a great investment to increase the comfort of your patrons. Now, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but they had really uncomfortable chairs. Because I think a lot of people had planned to camp out, get their laptops out, enjoy the air conditioning, enjoy their food, which was my plan. I had a couple hours to wait for my airplane, and they were wildly uncomfortable, to where after about an hour, that was enough, where I went out and found a better, more comfortable chair, even though it wasn't air conditioned. And you'll notice that seating arrangements, chairs, you have to understand with the law of involvement, one of the 12 laws of persuasion and maximum influence is the law of involvement. If chairs are too uncomfortable and you try to persuade them, that could be a challenge. They could stay too long. If they're too comfortable, they might fall asleep. I remember doing, in my early days, a training at a Lazy Boy factory, the recliners. But I did this training on the factory floor with everybody sitting in Lazy Boys, a lot of them kicking up their feet. That's too comfortable. So you have to draw the line. Do you have a restaurant that needs uncomfortable chairs that gets people out of there fast? Do you want them to stay a long time? Do you need pads on your chairs? Do you need metal chairs? Kind of an interesting thing. Chairs can affect influence, how comfortable they are, even the temperature of the room. We all know, I've said it before, if you're an avid listener to the podcast, at around 70 degrees, around 21 degrees Celsius is kind of the perfect temperature. Now, when I ask in seminars what's more persuasive, hot or cold, if they had to choose, most people say hot. No, you've had a meal before, too hot, too uncomfortable. I'd rather have it too cold. There are a lot of seminar leaders that want it 65 to where people are moving, they are more alert. Now, you got to be careful. Some people get colder faster than others. You really want temperature under the radar where they're not thinking about it. But if I had to choose, I'd rather have it a little on the cold side than on the hot side. So temperature, seating arrangements is all a part of involvement and engagement, which people don't think about. So I'll give them a ninja to get people in with the AC, get the money, and get people out of there with the uncomfy chairs. I mean, look at fast food restaurants. Those chairs aren't comfy. They're not. They've got your money, eat your food, get out. Now, if you go to a nice restaurant, they want you to stay a long time, start ordering a lot of drinks. They want you to be comfy. They want a good ambience. They want you to stay. The longer to stay, the more you buy. In that type of atmosphere, that's what they want. So take a look at your atmosphere when you're trying to influence temperature, even seating arrangements, and the type of chairs you're having them sit in. So there you go. That's our persuasion ninja of the day, which gets us to our geeky scholarly article of the week. This comes from the University of Rochester in the United States and Dr. Jason Middleton about horror films and the psychological thrill ride they offer. Because we think fear's bad, but people pay to get scared. So how do these horror movies make fear fun? Some people call it the paradox of horror, that people seek out for the sake of pleasure and experience they do everything to avoid in life. Right? You're watching this film, dark forests, person with a knife, people running. People enjoy that, but they don't want to experience it in real life. Now, the reason it works so well, that it generates curiosity, discovery, and it creates a scenario in a movie where people want to know the answers. What's going to happen here? What's going on? Who's going to die? What's going to happen? Where did this monster come from? Is it an alien? What's going on? So it causes this suspense. It's almost like a detective genre where you have to figure things out. You know, this supernatural element that defies our understanding. What's going on? How could this happen? Where did it come from? Really gets us engaged. So we spend the first part of the film trying to understand this threat. Our curiosity is aroused. What's happening here? What is this thing? How does it work? Where is it coming from? And then that final question is, how's this monster? How's this thing? How's this person? How is this evil going to be defeated? And it was interesting as I was reading the article that the modern horror film started is all traced back to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. It's an old black and white movie, Psycho. That's one of the first ones. And it's interesting, I read before that there's a shower scene where there's a knife and there's blood in the shower. This is a black and white movie. They actually used chocolate syrup to illustrate the blood, black and white. Not important for influence, but fun to know. So these horror movies create this roller coaster, this buildup. And the reason they call it a roller coaster, right? You're going up the roller coaster, you're going up, you're getting ready for that sudden shock, that drop off. And many horror films follow that same structure, that shocking moment, that moment when you're going down the roller coaster. People pay to have that fear, to experience that. So how could we use this in the world of persuasion and influence? Which brings us to listener email.
Oh boy!
Now remember, if I use your joke, a suggestion, your geeky article, your question on the show, you get for free the gold version of InfluenceUniversity.com. And to remember, the archives, your free persuasion IQ assessment, the links from the articles that I use are all available at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. So this comes from Pete in Nebraska in the United States. It says, Kurt, thanks for the podcast. Love it, learning a lot, and I do persuade with power. Love it, Pete. I was listening to one of your last podcasts on FOMO and using fear to seal the deal. I was fascinated when you said that fear and excitement are the same thing. They both trigger and release the same chemicals in the body. Can you explain a little more how that works and how I can use that in selling my products? You bet, Pete. Now, just go back a little bit. Now, your body doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. It does release the same chemicals in your body, but the chemicals are very similar. For example, this is how it works. When you feel fear or excitement, your body releases dopamine into your body. Now, a lot of times dopamine is associated with pleasure and reward. And when it does, it can enhance the feelings of anticipation and motivation. So fear or even excitement, it motivates people to take action. It also releases adrenaline. Both fear and excitement release this adrenaline. And this hormone prepares your body for action. It increases your heart rate. It dilates your pupil to gather more information. It boosts blood flow to the muscles, right? Fight or flight. And what it does, it helps increase alertness, focus, and preparing you to respond quickly to the things that are around you. Now, it also releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So when things are thrilling or challenging or you're feeling a little fear, you get a little cortisol. So the key difference between fear and excitement lies in how your brain interprets a situation. Now, I do a lot of training on persuasive presentations, teaching public speaking, both on the college and corporate level. And the key here to be successful in speaking, right? One of the number one fears is it's okay to be nervous, have those butterflies, get those butterflies to fly in formation. In fact, I tell people, I'm glad you're nervous. I'm glad you have a little fear. That means you care. You want to do a good job. If you weren't nervous, a little scared, a little fear, that means you didn't care. You didn't give a rip. You don't care how well you do. You don't care about the people in the room. You don't care about changing their lives and improving their situation. See, fear, short, shallow breaths. You're going to starve your brain for oxygen. It's not going to think very well. And when you feel fear, blood's leaving the brain, fight or flight's going to your muscles. So the key with turning fear to excitement is deeper breaths, getting more oxygen. And the second thing I would recommend is visualization. See, with fear, you're visualizing all the bad things that are going to happen. That axe murderer is going to come after you, is going to get you. Versus excitement, you're picturing all the exciting things. So in public speaking, if your fear is, what if I blow it? What if they walk out? What if they laugh at me? What if I make a mistake? What if they ask a question I don't know? What if I faint? Okay, ding, ding, ding. Those are things that are probably going to happen. But if you're focusing on changing lives, improving them, they're laughing, they're excited, they're enjoying your presentation, that could flip it around to turn that nervousness into excitement. So Pete, let's kind of compare to those horror movies and how we can use this in persuasion and influence. Because if your prospect, your customer's feeling fear, that could paralyze them where they don't make a decision. They do the fight or flight. They're going to fight you. They're going to come up with objections. They're going to make up objections. They might say, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my partner. I need more information, which we know most of the time is a lie. It's because they're feeling too much fear. So how do we turn that fear into focus, that anxiety into acceptance? Here are a few tips. Now, when you go see that horror movie, that's controlled fear. That's a safe environment. You're experiencing fear in a controlled setting where you know you're not actually in danger. You get the thrill without the risk, and you can turn that fear into an exciting experience. That's what we're trying to do with the prospects and the people that we're talking to, that we're trying to influence. And a lot of that comes back to the dose of fear. Fear is very motivating. Fear can be very influential. Fear is why we buy life insurance, health insurance most of the time. I mean, when you show 15, 16-year-olds whose brains aren't developed, they're trying to learn how to drive, and you're trying to scare them that this is a dangerous thing. You could get hurt. You could kill people. And you show them these movies of cars and crashes and death. You actually hear laughter because that's too much. Even though it's real, it's just too much for them. So if the fear is too much, too high, it can have the opposite effect. So if you're going to use controlled fear a little bit at a time, see how they react. And the key when using this fear, again, is the proper dose, but making sure you're providing the tools to overcome the fear. Another one I talked about is suspense, right? These horror movies create suspense and anticipation, the thrill of the unknown, right? What's going to happen? The twists, the anticipation, we're on the edge of our seat, we jump when something happens. That again is the law of involvement. See, attention spans, as we know, I don't need to tell you, but I'm going to tell you again, attention spans are all-time low. And if they're not listening, if they're not engaged, they're involved, you can't persuade them. So how can you create this suspense, this anticipation? They want to know the answer. How can they solve this fear? You can actually turn that fear into attention, into focus, where they want to listen. They want to know the answer. This is also known as the Zeigarnik effect. Go to the archives if you want to know more about it. But basically, we pay more attention when something's unfinished. There's suspense, there's intrigue, there's curiosity. People pay more attention. When you leave a voicemail that, hey, that one thing you were looking for, I found the solution, give me a call. That's unfinished. I want to know more. You see, the Zeigarnik effect is named from Bluma Zeigarnik, a Russian psychologist who was sitting at a cafe, and the waiters and waitresses didn't have any pad and papers, a pretty simple menu. You order, they deliver it, they give you your bill, 100% accuracy every time she would go. But she found out once they had delivered the food and given you the bill, they couldn't remember what you ordered. They couldn't see it on your plate. They couldn't remember what you ordered because when you ordered it was unfinished. They had to deliver it. They had to give you the bill. People remember it more. When things are unfinished, suspense, anticipation, it sticks in their mind more. Another way to do this, get really good at this, telling stories. Stories are off the charts for creating anticipation, getting people involved, keeping their attention, creating suspense. They want to know the answer. That's part of the Zeigarnik effect. They want to know how the story's going to end. And if you don't finish the story, they're going to get mad and want to know what happened in that story. That makes a big difference. In fact, if you really want to add two powerful tools, Zeigarnik effect and stories, this is what you do. And you can't do this with every presentation, but this is an incredible way to do it if you could pull it off, is to have a story that's relevant, that they want to listen to, that's part of your product or service. It could even be a success story. Is tell a little bit of the story, a little instruction, again, their intention, what's going to happen, a little more of the story, some instruction, a little more of the story, some instruction. It keeps them engaged, involved, suspense, anticipation, and know what's going to happen, just like those horror movies. Another way, horror movies create excitement, that adrenaline rush. That excitement kind of comes from tension, that adrenaline's being released, that physiological response it gives the people watching the movie, an exhilarating feeling, which some can find addictive. So your goal is to get them excited about what you're doing. Well, first of all, you have to be excited. You have to transfer that. If you're not excited, they're not going to get excited. And what you need to do is do that through building the vision. That's part of involvement, engagement. They can see themselves doing it. Remember, if they can't see themselves doing it, they're not going to do it. They're going to have vision. Now, the opposite of vision is worry, which is a form of fear. Worry is just all the negative things that can happen. If they're stuck in worry, it's because you haven't created a vision where they can see themselves doing it. And one way to turn that fear into an excitement, whether it be with you or your prospect, is you got to make their future fear stronger than their current fear. Meaning their current fear, what if it doesn't work? I've tried it before. Are they lying to me? Is there a better product, right? These are fears people have. That's their current fear. You've got to make their future fear of not taking action, of not using your product or service, stronger. The consequences stronger in the future than the fear they currently have right now. Another interesting thing about horror movies is there's this social bonding, this shared experience of screaming, laughing, gasping, jumping, whatever it is. You're creating memorable moments with friends, right? You have this similar experience. So if you can have empathy and they can feel that you understand their fear, and you can bond with them, you can connect with them, that you have shared experiences with them, and that you really understand this fear and what they're going through, that's another way to turn that fear into focus, that fear into excitement. It brings people closer together. We all know when people like you, persuasion and influence is much easier. And final one, people go to these horror movies to master their fear. It's almost a victory to endure a scary movie. You got through it. Gives people a sense of accomplishment, that they get this boost of confidence. They've mastered their fears. They feel a little resilience in facing real life challenges. So in the persuasion sales world, giving them the hope, the vision that they can conquer this fear, that you can show them the before picture, all the fears, and the after picture of not having fears. And the key with this too is social validation, showing others, including yourself if you can, who had the same fear, worked it out, and now they're happier than ever. So there you have it. That's our podcast for today, turning that fear into focus, that anxiety into acceptance, turning it around, using it in the right way, really improving your IQ, sensing their fear, adapting to their fear, using their fear in the right way can make a big difference. So take something you learned today, apply it, use it, get more tools in your persuasion toolbox. So go to Maximize Your Influence, podcast 529. You'll find the special, influenceuniversity.com. It's usually a monthly membership, but now you can get everything, pretty much everything I've done, from the videos to the audios to the library to the 52-week program where you can watch a video a week to get a new tool a week. It's all there. You can follow the program. You can go to the areas that you're working on right now, the templates, the persuasion software that persuades for you. It's all right there. The special lifetime membership for $97. It's there. Check it out. Appreciate you being here. Tell your family and friends and enemies about the podcast. It can be found on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. Make it happen. Become a better influencer, a better negotiator, better at your EQ, and go out and persuade with power.